Each stop has its own rank. That means that there's one pipe for each note for each stop. As an example, if a manual has 10 stops, a manual has 61 keys. 61 times 10, that is 610 pipes for that manual alone, unless borrowed. In the pedal department, borrowing occurs very common from the other manuals or from each other. We could have the flute unit that enables the 16 and the 8-foot flutes on the pedals, as well as a principal department which activates or plays the 8 and the 4-foot principal of the pedals. Pedals mostly play one note at a time and are mostly in the lower frequencies. What are unit organs? You get to an organ, 2 manuals, you count the stops, 24 stops. Nice. But there are only 4 ranks for that entire organ. Everything is divided up into all the other stops. You'll have a principal, a flute, maybe a Dulciana rank, and maybe the swell horn rank, and out of all those stops, you have the same sounds. They tend to sound shrill. Another type of stop are mixtures. Mixtures have more than one rank. That means rows of pipes for each note. It's often referred to a combination stop. Roman numerals indicate how many ranks there are in the mixture. For example, Roman numeral 2-4 means that the mixture starts at the lowest note in 2 ranks, eventually becomes 3, and ends up being 4 ranks at the highest notes. Mixtures and mutations are based on octaves and fifths of a certain pitch class and are designed to be used within combination. Therefore, the fundamental stop within the pitch class on which the mixture or the mutation is based needs to be present. On the sample set that I'm using, I have a mixture major. It only works when the 16-foot stop is present within the combination, as this specific mixture contains harmonics from the 16-foot pitch class. In other words, the 5 1/3 of a foot. There it starts to sound a bit funky. I'll add the 16-foot principle. Sounds better. In the middle range, that 5 1/3 stop is present, and it will make your playing sound a bit weird if you don't include your pitch class fundamental tone. Some mixtures may include the tierce, that is the third. Such a mixture is known as the cornet stop. The cornet stop is usually 5 ranks. This is the only mixture that may be used without combining the fundamental stops, as the fundamental note is already present in the mixture. It is mainly used for solos in the treble register. And then we have nothing. It stops at tenor G or alto G, the G below middle C, whatever you want to call that, small G. That is the cornet stop. If your organ does not have a cornet stop, you may construct one for yourself. You take your 8-foot flute, 4-foot principal, your 2-foot, 2 2/3, and 1 3/5, and you'll have a cornet stop. My swell pedal was still closed. Next mixture that contains the tierce is the sesquialtera. This contains 2 2/3 and 1 3/5. I do not have such a stop. Doesn't sound so wonderful by itself. If you add the 8-foot flute, you will get a clarinet sound. Sounds very nice in the high register. You may also combine it with your 8, your 4 and your 2-foot on your manuals to construct the cornet mixture. Another type of mixture that has the tierce included is the tierce mixture. This is a popular mixture to use with French organ music written in the 16th and 17th century. That's a tierce mixture. Sometimes a mixture will be written as mixture Roman numeral 4 and 2-foot. This indicates that the mixture consists out of 4 ranks and that the lowest pipe of the 4 ranks of the lowest note is a 2-foot. Generally, octaves and fifths follow from there on. This could be also indicated in more detail as mixture 15, 19, 22, 26. This means that the lowest note consists out of the intervals of a 15th, a 19th, a 22nd, and a 26th. Or in layman's terms, 2-foot, 2 1/3, 1-foot, and 2 2/3. I have such a mixture. So it starts on 2-foot. So I'll use a 2-foot of the great to demonstrate. And then it is in octaves and fifths, starting with the lowest note. There are 4 ranks, so it will sound like this. That's how mixtures are constructed. Now, because mixtures start with high tones in the bottom register, we often have breaks or fallbacks, if you can call it that. Because if those high notes have to remain so high, the pipe will become ridiculously small and inaudible that only dogs will be able to hear it. So we have fallbacks. Later on through the manual, it will fall back to the previous harmonic 2 2/3, 2-foot, 1 1/3, and a 1-foot. About the next octave or octave and a half, depending on how far they want to space it out. It seems like that mixture breaks at a G most commonly. In the case with organ with tablets, we will first have the flues from the lowest to the highest. If there are more than one flue on the same pitch, we'll have the loudest to the softest, usually principal, flute, string. As I said before, the dulciana is seen as a diminutive diapason. On some organs it is put next to the open diapason. This creates confusion, as an organist will expect that is the next loudest stop, such as a flute, but is actually put in the right place where it should be. After the flues, we have the mixtures. Again, if there's more than one mixture, the lowest one first, then the highest. And then we have the reeds from the lowest to the highest. If we have the same pitch for certain reeds, we'll start with the loudest, going to the softest. In the case with organ with drawbars, they are usually grouped according to classification in rows of 2 or 3. On one side you might have all your principals with your mixture. On the other side you might start with your string tone on its own, your 2 flutes, your mutation, and then your trumpet. It's for ease of access of pulling out simultaneously 3 stops, like so. If you look at a swell manual of the same setup, we could have our principals on one side with the mixture. On the other side, seeing that there's only an 8-foot flute, he's on his own at the bottom with the 2 strings and then the reeds to follow. Now for approximate stop combinations, when the score only gives dynamic markings without an indication of specific registration. Also understanding basic organ jargon. The principal chorus is usually the principals of 8, 4 and 2 foot. This is usually found on the grate. Next we have the flute chorus. This is usually found on the choir or the swell. Next we have the reed chorus. This consists out of 16, 8 and 4 foot reeds. It is very rarely encountered that we have a 2 foot reed. I of course on my sample set do not have all 4 of them on the same manual, so I'll be coupling the swell to the grate. That is the reed chorus. On larger organs you will find a reed chorus on all the manuals, as well as the pedals, which might include the 32-foot reed. Foundations are usually your principals and flutes of 8 and 4 foot stops. Sometimes the 4 foot principal is omitted. We can add the foundations of the swell. The gemshorn is also a foundation stop. A very nice warm sound the foundations are. Next they speak about gap registration. If you take 8, 4 and 2 foot of a choir or your swell, and we leave out the 4 foot, we will have gap registration. A nice clean sound. Also, if you take the 8, the 4 foot and the 2 2/3, leave out the 4 foot, that is also gap registration. To create a synthetic oboe, one could use your 8 foot string with your 2 2/3, your softest 8 foot. That is a synthetic oboe. General dynamics. Note that what I will be demonstrating is personal taste. Different organ schools of different nationalities as well as different time periods will require specific combinations. Using the correct combination to what the composer intended should be taken seriously. Substitutions of certain stops and adjustments are acceptable to suit the instrument. Substitutions and adjustments should be kept to a minimum. There are books available on registration for different organ schools as well as time periods. The book that I can recommend is Organ Technique Modern and Early by Ritchie and Stauffer. This explains basic organ technique, pedal technique, even the historical technique known as the Bach technique, as well as different organ schools, the organs the composers played on, and the general practices of how the organs functioned for your repertoire. It even includes at the back different pipes with detailed descriptions on how reed pipes work and how flue pipes work, as well as a picture of different pipes all playing the same pitch. I will also leave a link in the description to go to see how the different pipes look like, and they also explain how the pipes function. Please bear in mind that what I'm about to explain now is personal taste. Triple P, pianissimo, is usually your softest registration, sometimes the Dulciana alone or a single string stop on its own. Or you could add your voix celeste if you wish. Pianissimo, PP, is usually an 8 foot flute. Or all your 8 foot flutes if you wish. It's nice to solo out a melody if you want to. A nice clean sound and soft sound. Next we have piano, 1P. It is usually your 8 and 4 foot flutes. You may use both manuals if you wish. Next we have mezzo piano, usually your foundations are mezzo piano. You have your principal 8 foot and you add your flutes of 8 and forefoot. Then we have mezzo forte. Mezzo forte, MF, are basically your principles of 8 and forefoot. You may add the principles of your swell, 8 and forefoot, along with the oboe if you wish. Next we have forte. Forte is basically your principal chorus. 8, 4 and 2. If you want to add your 2 and 2/3, you are welcome to do that. If you wish, you may add your swell, the principles 8 and 4, your harmonic trumpet, cornopian, trompeta harmonique, and your oboe or hautbois. Fortissimo, double F, is usually your principal chorus with your mixture. If you wish, you may add the principles of your swell along with your 16-foot flute with the mixtures and all the 8 and 4-foot reeds. If you have a large organ, you might add your 16-foot reed if you want to. Next we have the triple F, fa. Fortissimo, it represents the full organ. That English saying that they say pulling out all the stops, we do not pull out everything. For the full organ, we only use all the principles, all the mixtures, all the reeds, all manuals and pedals coupled together. We omit the flutes, most of the mutations and the strings, so half the organ won't even be playing. If you pull out all the stops, you will waste valuable air and your organ will run out of breath. This is fa. If you have a solo reed, such as a tuba or a trompetta chamade, you might add that as well. Dynamics for the swell refers to the position of the swell shades. It can be anything from pianissimo to fortissimo. It all depends on the composer, the arranger, or the publisher. Some swell pedals have virtually no effect, while others have a wide dynamic range. A wider dynamic range may also be influenced by the amount of reeds within your combination. Pianissimo, the box is basically fully closed. Forte, the box is fully open. All other gradients in between for all the other dynamics. Pianissimo. Forte, the sample set that I have, the swell is not very effective, and I'm using a zoom pedal. It's very sensitive. I hope you enjoyed this video. I made these videos for my students. I usually explain the stops and the feet and everything in the first lesson with the introduction to the organ for my students. It is a lot to take in, and students forget the basic things. That's why I made this video, so that they may recap that and remember it and relearn what I taught them. Thank you for watching.